This is Damian McCarthy. I'm the writer and director of Hokum here. So, neon is always a good mark of quality. I think at the start of the film, when you're watching it, you're going to see something interesting. These all are producers. The film began with a producer named Dan Kagan. I'd given him a script, and the script wasn't very good. This was an early draft of the movie, and he was pretty honest with it. He said that there's really good ideas in it, but if you could do a heavy rewrite, the film will actually, it'll be easier to get it made and kind of try to boil down the story somewhat. So I'm very grateful to Dan for, I think his encouragement is what led to this. It was in Spooky Pictures, was the first company that I teamed up with, and Spooky Pictures are with, they have partners out in Abu Dhabi, Image Nation Abu Dhabi, and it just coincidentally is because where they're based. That was very lucky for me because we had this opening and closing bookend with the desert you see here. It was just one of those nice coincidences with people that you end up partnering with. Austin Emilio here, I'd first seen him in The Walking Dead and just thought he had a great face. I always just thought there was something really interesting about him. So when we were casting this, I wanted to even though it's not historically accurate, but to have an American playing this part, because I always see this as Ohm writing about his childhood and this is his dad. And the whole idea of alcoholism and kind of what a bitter character he is and kind of how empty and violent. It just felt like a conquistador would make sense for that. But Austin was amazing to work with. We were both very jet lagged out here in the desert. I was coming from Ireland and he was coming from Texas, so I think he was a bit more used to the heat than I was. Ezra Carlisle then plays the young boy. Ezra also plays later on in the film young Adam. He was also excellent to work with, and just for such a young actor, very patient and just made of tough stuff, because this was a tough shoot. The opening and closing this film, we shot this as the sun was going down, so we shot this over 2 days. So, and we were locked into this kind of, to get this light, we were locked into these kind of 4-hour windows, which just really, it was a poor choice on my half, but on my behalf, but it worked. It was worth the risk. This is all a pickup, all of this stuff with Adam, because originally the film had just opened with this idea of just the conquistador and then launching into the Adam driving to the woods. And just in the first test screenings, people thought, oh, is this set in the past? And then when Adam gets to the hotel, he's going to find the bottle, or he's going to find the treasure, and people really started making up their own stories. So I was lucky to get Adam back and explain to him what we were trying to do, and he was all for it. So it was like, well, why don't we intercut between introduce you as a writer, writing this story just to make it very clear, and then people can just put this aside, then they'll know exactly, okay, this is the story within the story. And then just is one of these things again with luck that I had, instead of having a big X of sand, I had this red circle. I just thought a red circle would be cool. And then I said, but how do I cross cut? And I thought, well, he's an alcoholic and I can have this ring stain on the table. And it just made this lovely match cut. Again, a stroke of luck. You're kind of watching the footage and going, okay, I'm going to shoot all this new sequence with Adam in Dublin as if it's his home back in LA, and find a way to intercut them. I remember Ezra digging through the sand there, and the sand was so hot, but he was just as I said, he's made of tough stuff. He just kept going. He was fantastic. Ginny Reedman here, she does the hair in my movies. Just did such a good job throughout this. What she did with Austin's hair here is brilliant. That bottle broke on the first time he picked it up and hit the sand. It just shattered. I think he cut a little bit of his hand, but again, just these guys were. We were there to, we did a tight schedule, so we were just trying to work through all these things. This is very rushed. Just time was really against us in the day, and I was trying to grab those in the last few seconds for those pickups. And again, it's kind of the thing of like this: the skull of such a beast would mean hope. It's for second viewings. You hope that people will come back and see that when you see that skull at the end, that it does signify hope and that things are going to be okay. Lara Campbell did the costume. there was this idea earlier that we were going to have his sleeves hanging off. You can see the way that they detach. But I just thought he just looked so much cooler. When people are reading the script too, they were very curious that they knew that there was an Irish horror film set in Ireland mainly. So when the film opens like this, they were like, "Am I reading the right thing?" And now it's a case of people are saying, "Am I watching the right movie?" Because it's opening here in the desert. So all of this was just the opening. There was never any cutaways to Adam. It was all just a self-contained thing, but it really sent people on the wrong path. When we did our test screenings, they still had this in their mind 20 minutes later. So that's the reason that we shot all this. And I think it's such a stronger opening because now it opens and closes with Adam writing this novel. This was just a private home in Dublin we shot, and the idea was just make it, kind of Michael Mann inspired, make it very cool, very cold, just concrete, kind of like what the character is supposed to be. Just visually to look different to the rest of the film, so you'd feel like you're not in Ireland, that you're not in the hotel. And then when I got the chance to actually go back and shoot this, it felt like, okay, perfect. This gives me a chance to put in an early scare, because without this, the first real hint of horror isn't for 20 minutes. And horror films have that classic. They have the classic thing where you have a cold open, where there's that initial scare. But being able to do this allowed me to squeeze in that jump scare there with Mallory. Mallory was pregnant there at the time, so there was a little bit of hiding of her bump, which is an interesting challenge for costume. She was brilliant to work with as well. All of this then allowed the fact that I was going to go back and do this. Again, I was trying to get across information very quickly. We have the Jack thing there. The plants Jack, plants Ireland, the gun, the box, the saw, where the saw came from, because there was a whole other sequence. You'll see here in the magazine coming up that there's a tribute to the first assistant director, Jim Core, very good friend of mine who worked with an Oddity, an amazing director, assistant director. It says here the legend, you'll see it there in the middle, Jim Core, the life of a legend. Jim died very sadly between filming the main bulk of the film and then this pickup. So just, we were really heartbroken when we were filming all of this. So it was just a way to keep him in mind, and when I watch the film, that when I see that scene, I'll think of him, and I'll certainly think of him when I look at how tough that desert shoot was, because he was very much there with me trying to get it done. So all of this there's a lot squeezed in there to kind of show, to plant stuff, Jack, the saw. The fact that I'd cut out a few other little moments and scenes out of the film, when I got to redo that moment, it allowed me to correct a few things. This is all around West Cork now, towards the Cork and Kerry border, where I'm from. This is Colm Hogan's photography with Roman. They're excellent, excellent cinematographers, and their drone photography is amazing. So all of that's going through Kerry, then into the Cork border. So for me, it was quite unusual to see. I mean, I've driven this road hundreds and hundreds of times, so it was interesting to see it from the sky. This scene is more towards Skibbereen. This is very close to where we shot all the basement scenes. This is Jerry's introduction. This always felt a little quick. It kind of caught us in post-production, but it's fine. It's, it kind of puts you in the point of view of the character. If you think of this film now without that opening sequence, this would have been the first time we see Adam, and it's his first introduction, and it feels a lot weaker than opening with him the way we have him now. Plus it kind of feels like a little bit like my short film He Dies at the End, and at the end of Oddity, with this guy sitting with his back to the camera as a way of introduction. This is a private residence that we turned into a hotel. Again, you arrive to the location, and this was found by Aideen O'Donnell, who's a local legend in West Cork. She just knows everybody, and she knew all of these brilliant hidden locations, and she shows you around, and it just felt perfect.
How'd you shoot it?
We had an animatronic head of the goat where the tongue would move, but it was just very strange stuff. We just got rid of it. Michael Patrick here is fantastic to work with. I was very lucky with all of my cast. They all really brought their own thing to it, and Michael always made me laugh. He just has this lovely delivery and kind of tone to his voice that I really enjoyed. Kind of hard to, just as his character, you never know where's this guy coming from. Is he good or bad, or is he very laid back, or is he intense? There's my sister there in the background and my mom just squeezing in their cameos. This was the very first thing we shot, so this is when the anxiety was definitely at its highest. It's like that first morning is always the worst, just to get rolling. That's every usable frame of those two kids. They were not actors, and I don't think they had any love of it. You'd ask them to redo something. I mean, they were so small, they were so young. They're like, we did it already. Do we have to do it again? So I don't think they got the acting bug. Brendan was wonderful. Brendan had this. Brendan was fantastic to work with again. Just real old, plays real old Irish character here. I love it. These are by Paul McDonnell. We tried to carve these out of ivory. There was the amount of work involved in getting the look of these right was one of the trickiest things in the film. Myself and Paul had so much back and forth and trying to how to crack what they should look like. And Paul had designed the wooden man in my film Oddity. So again, it was just really wanted to work with Paul again because he's got such a good eye. He's just good to work with as well. He's very passionate. And we had a little bit of a shorthand too, so I know that I could get him to redo things and push him and he wouldn't get too mad at me. That was the desk bell from the end of Oddity. In Oddity, there's a haunted desk bell. When you ring it, an evil bellboy shows up. I bought that bell years ago at an antique shop. I just liked it. And just try to work it into my movies. You do these little things to connect them a bit. This was all day one. Peter Coonan I'd seen in a Irish TV show called Love Hate. I just thought he was brilliant in that, and just always just watched anything he was in, and he was fantastic to work with. One of our references for his character was Tony Goldwyn's character in Ghost. He's the villain in the old Patrick Swayze movie Ghost. And I told Peter, I said, you're not going to be cool at all in this movie, and the more evil you get, the more bumbling and awkward and just really losing control. There's nothing slick, or even when the mask slips and we realise that this guy's horrible, you don't suddenly become this cool killer. You become, if anything, more sweaty and fumbling and just clumsy almost. And he loved it. He really liked that idea. I mean, there was no ego there at all. He was like, great. He's very easy. He's good to make laugh. He really enjoys a laugh. So I mean, you give him these ideas, and he's like this. He's just kind of. He goes, oh yeah. He goes, that sounds great. He's just really into it. So again, lucky to work with him. This scene was longer. Again, I've gotten better at keeping my scenes shorter. If you can keep your script to about 4 to 5 pages, it's around 4 minutes, and then you're out. So this went on longer. This was like my wife found your book and she read some of your book, and it was very disturbing. And then Adam was a little bit more chatty, and I was like, no, we need to close him down. Now we've moved out of the real location. This now is a set build. This is in the West Cork studio. So every time you see this corridor, it's a set. And we built this corridor once, but we had one movable wall. That back wall there is movable.
You lost.
And so that would be, if we shot the other way, then we'd move it around and replace it. So it was still the biggest budget I'd work with. But I think every film, you just always have these limitations where you're trying to, you're trying to figure out how to make every dollar stretch. That was one of the things we had. Florence O'Desh was great. It was kind of a tough role because she's not in the film for much, and you do need to connect with her.
Enjoy yourself.
But again, she was lovely to work with. I just thought she had this kind of, there's something kind of cool about her. That expression, the manic pixie dream girl, where in movies where it's like just this girl who's there to kind of fawn all over the main star. It was something we just really didn't want. We kind of wanted her to be to challenge him and to not be just to not be such a sycophant the way all the other characters are with him. I wanted this to be a waterfall in Glengarriff Woods. But this is right next door to Castle Freak, where we shot all of the basement scenes. And again, it was just time. If I'd gone to the waterfall, sound issues aside, it's my same sound recorder as Hugo Parveri, who worked with on Caveat and Oddity. That would have been a pain, but Hugo, I know, who would have figured it out. But it was just, it's a day. I would have lost about half a day filming in all of that basement stuff. So we basically walked around the woods. One of our producers, Derek Douchy, was with me. And we were just wandering around. We found this tree and we said, and Derek was like, well, this is a redwood. This isn't really native to Ireland. Derek's American. I was like, okay, that makes sense. An American tree, and parents came here, and it could be a bit of a landmark for the hotel. So we ended up. It went from a waterfall to this big tree. Again, this is just all filmmaking, just problem solving and trying to figure these things out. This piece of score here is by Colm Con McInerney from The Frames. Been a huge fan of The Frames for years, and was lucky that he was nice enough to come on and work with us on some of those pieces. He was brilliant. Here's our goat back again. So there's a tree here that's cut down, and it was one of the most. It sounds silly, but it was one of the most. That tree there in the background. There was a storm, and when we had our location picked out, that tree was half falling over, and it looked like we had a safety inspector up. Goes, you can't film here, because he marked all these trees that needed to be cut, and I just had this. Every day I was saying, has that tree been cut down? Can we get that tree cut down? There was a time I was going to take a chainsaw myself and sneak into the woods and just cut it. Because it was getting to the point where if we can't film there, I need to figure out where am I filming, because I like to storyboard and show up prepared. It was finally cut at the last minute anyway. And it actually works out really well, because originally it was just going to be a reverse shot. It was going to be Adam's going to stand alongside that tree and Jerry's going to remain seated. But with that tree cut, it meant that Jerry could now it's almost like moving from the couch to the chair closer to the door. This feels more homely to him. And again, just for my blocking here, it really helped me.
I'll bury
David Wilmot's probably my favourite actor I've ever worked with. I'm so happy with all my actors. Love working with every one of them, but just something about David. I mean, I think anybody that works with him tell him, even all the other actors say that he's just the best. He'll ideas and just fun and I think every script. I never write with actors in mind, but every script going forward, there's just a part for him. He's really inspirational to work with.
I've nearly come to blows.
But again, I could say that about all my cast. They were just completely behind me and very supportive.
Don't go climbing up on any cars.
This is Harry Bird and the Rubber Wellies coming in here. Harry's a friend of mine. My girlfriend and I, Letty, fell in love listening to their albums, and we just made friends with the band. They used to always be around West Cork, so I'm glad we did a piece of music of his. So you can see the bunny right there. The bunny from Caveat and Oddity is snuck in there, and that's Conor Duane and Ian Pabon from Caveat. They're the couple that kill each other. So I guess this takes place before Caveat. I don't know if anyone ever noticed that, but it's there. This again was longer. There was a longer entrance to this. Adam walks in and he sees Fergal talking to his cousins, the guards, and Fergal says, "There he is now, the goat lover." He kind of says it under his breath, like messing with Adam. And always made myself and Brian, the editor, laugh. In the morning, he'd come into work and be like, "There he is now, the goat lover." But it's one of these things that just had to cut. There's all these tiny moments that you end up just losing, just for time. The film was never that long. I think even for the first cut of it, it was about 2 hours. And then there was talk to try to get it down to 90, but it was like 90 is impossible. But again, I'd worked with Stephen Schneider from Spooky Pictures.
I think I am.
Stephen's a fantastic editor. He can come in, and we had taken stuff out, and he was like, "No, put that back in." He goes, "Just don't worry about the runtime for the moment. Put it back in." And he'd find a way to put this, to slip this stuff back in, but then remove other shots. So we kind of got our cake and eat it too. It was brilliant. Myself and Brian, we think, oh well, we have this. Like we're done with the movie. We have it edited as tight as it can be, and then. It's just the importance of showing it to either talented producers or just getting any other eyes in it, or listening to test audiences, which is what resulted in the change in the opening.
The person that shot her.
This was a very hard day. Everything shot in the bar had to be done in one day. I think there was about 10 pages, and it was just every single minute was needed to film. It's just very, very tricky. I remember crawling into bed that night. It's also, I think everything works out fine in it. There's something about the scene that's never worked fully for me, and I think it's once you get into the exposition of the witch, there's something here. It's fine, and I know that the way I introduced the book, it just seems to come out of nowhere. And if I could redo that, I would have. I mean, I had another shot of Florence reading the book, and that felt a little bit more organic. That the book is already planted. But it just seems to come out of nowhere now, and it always bothers me when I see it. Now, again, in others, I mean, that's because I've seen the film 500 times, and you pick over these things, and you just let all this stuff go. But I'm always curious if I could watch the film not knowing anything about it, would I find it a little B-movie exposition-y, which I guess it is. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that either. In the original script, I've been watching a lot of Gene Hackman movies. French Connection 2, I seem to be watching on repeat. And he's wearing the pork pie hat. So in the script, and even the coat Adam wears is very detective-like. It's the same as that Popeye Doyle coat. So I had him also wearing a pork pie hat, and that's what he was going to leave on the bar here. I think it was Adam's only real note when we were doing it. He was like, how married are you to that pork pie hat? I was like, I'd even forgotten it was in the script. I said, I'm happy to lose it. And that's why he has these, it made more sense. He was going to leave that in the bar, but then it makes more sense that he leaves his recorder and the photograph. This is Will O'Connell. Will also plays Jack the Jackass, the demonic childhood memory of Adam's. Will was brilliant. I hadn't been familiar with Will at all, but he sent in a tape, and it was just excellent. It was just very, very funny and intense, and just as you can see here, he takes a great close up. Loved working with Will. Just a really nice guy, and just really into it. Again, I remember seeing this on the big screen for the first time at a test audience in LA, and this just looked incredible. And the way the light travelled across the crowd. It just looked very cinematic. So if we hadn't had the scare at the start with the mom, this would have been our first scare. We're 22 minutes into the film, and it is a little late to have your first fright. This had been a different scare as well. She had appeared very faintly the way she does, but without any sting. Sound is everything. Steve Hannigan did the sound in this, and so originally you just caught a glimpse of her, and she steps back. And Will keeps searching for her. And then she's right next to him in this close-up, and she's very bright. It just felt, and so she's kind of jumped through, she's kind of teleported next to him. You just got too much of a look at her. She's right up close, and it just felt silly as well. It just felt like, that she's just suddenly standing next to him, as opposed to her teasing him there a little bit. And I mean, she's speaking Irish. She's saying like, "Open the gate, come closer."
What your books have meant to me.
I think it just worked out better there, just to kind of keep her in shadow. This is the scene that I think he was harder on Albie in the edit, in the script. I think he kind of pushes him a lot more, and he keeps reminding him like, "You're a bellboy," and really speaking down to him. And any notes that I was getting was like, you're going to lose the audience here because he's like, he's too much. He's like, oh, it's too cruel. But it was funny because I kind of thought you needed it. It was the right decision in the end, because having watched the film now with an audience, I can see that they really do start to turn on Adam here. They kind of go like, oh, like you can kind of hear them, you see the shuffling in the seats, and you see them going, oh, this guy. And it's very much the idea. When Albie says, when Albie says there, "Are you happy with how it's going?" The original line in the script was Adam says, "That's like asking Sisyphus if he's happy with his boulder." And I thought it was very clever. And I was like, oh, that's a great line. And I seem smart.
Pay the bills.
And then, but Adam was like, but if you put that in, it feels like it's very written, which it was. And he goes, but it also feels like you're inviting more conversation.
Publishers or agents.
Albie's gonna see that as a window to keep talking. Whereas I said to Adam, I said, all right. I said, well, what would you do instead? And he goes, I would just take a drink, because I would just dismiss him and take a drink. And again, it's
Why not?
absolutely the right call, as opposed to things being overwritten.
You need thicker skin.
You just have him take this drink. And it makes me laugh now whenever I watch it. It's like, yeah, that is definitely better than where I was going. So you try to listen to your actors. This was, I remember time getting very tight here when we were filming and feeling pressure. And I always think as a director, that's your job, is never to feel like you're under pressure or you're trying to rush people. Go, no, we've got time. We can do this. It's going to be fine. And you could be really silently panicking inside. But again, working with Jim, the AD, Jim Core, he just had all the scheduled out so well, and he was just a very calm presence to work with. And never, some ADs can be very shouty and they can try to be the boss, and I definitely like to keep my sets as calm as I can, and nobody's raising their voice, and it just works better. Everybody feels more relaxed, so it just seems to go a lot. It just seems to run a lot smoother. Again, this was a little bit of a longer sequence. I had Fiona step up to the door. She starts to get this weird feeling with these strange kind of camera moves that would go from her. She walks away from the door, going back to the door. But again, we watched him. It's like, okay, this has got to go. We also had a whole subplot in the script where she has epilepsy, and she used to the way her body would contort and go into these strange kind of locked up positions. She did this that when she's first leading Adam to his room, she kind of, as she's walking away, her body locks up in this spasm, and it just played a part in the movie that she appeared in the dream sequence, and it became a clue as to how he realizes she's gone up there. Again, just cut for time. It was like, okay, it never really paid off in any big way, and it felt like there was other ways to get him to the honeymoon suite, so we ended up cutting it. This sequence again this was a sequence that seemed to come in and out of the movie. I had it cut at one stage and we brought it back, and it's definitely one of those moments it's very much, this is created in the edit. And I find there's one of these scenes in every film where it just feels like it's put together from sound design, from stealing shots. This was different. We had gone through a whole bunch of ideas for this, but this is where we landed. Again, if I could redo it, I think I would have had something actually peering around the corner of him at the end of the hallway, or I would have approached it differently. But it's fine. I watched it and it's got a jump. It wouldn't be my favorite sequence in the film, though. There's Letty, my girlfriend, doing her cameo. She was a nurse as well in the previous movie, so she says she's been typecast. And there's her hand, so she gets 3 credits. This was the production office. This is upstairs of the honeymoon suite where we shot. Again, just for time, Till and his team did a great job. That counter there is fake. We built that. The key, where all the keys are there in the background, that's all built as well. The alarm. All of this stuff is just small things you put in. You try to let the location do the heavy lifting, and then just add in these things to just to bring it to life, just to sell the idea. There's Austin. Austin was one of our crazy patients in Oddity. He gets a nice close-up walking down the hall. I liked having Austin around. It was great. He's got a good presence on screen. Takes a nice close-up. I never got the camera too close to him on this one, but it's nice to have him there. You try to fill up your set with people that are supportive of what you're doing, and they, that they're, just good to have on set. That they've all got ideas.
Of course.
Again, this was a scene that was a little bit longer, but we, again, cut it down. This now is a real. This is when you walk out the door that this is how the location works. But it was a very difficult room to film in, and we knew it would be. Just the amount of clutter inside there, and it's intentionally made to look like this. And I liked all the bars, the bars behind him and the bars on the thing. It just made it look like that this man is just in a cage. So I like that kind of, I like that feeling to it. But just not. I'm glad there wasn't a whole lot that took place here. I learned this making my short films. As soon as you step into a location, you want that room to be so much bigger than what it is, because by the time you get your camera and your crew and your lights and everything inside there, the room vanishes, and you're just standing on the backs of each other's heels. This is the Southern Star. It's an actual newspaper down in West Cork. They were very nice. Till went in and they just printed us off a whole stack of them.
Okay, but she couldn't have just disappeared. I mean, they searched.
I like their back and forth here. I think
And the woods.
they do a really good job.
She'd been taken.
It's his delivery here. See, that's great. Like Peter's it's really good stuff with Peter there, because I never know if you're going to just suspect him straight away. And I had that with Oddity, where it was like, they were like, well, it kind of has to be the husband. You know, it just seemed like, yeah, he's just going to be the obvious one. It's always that the husband is the killer. But with this, I wondered if it would feel the same. If it would feel like, oh, it's got to be the manager. He just seems, he seems too polished and polite, too sweet to be wholesome type thing.
Always just consider them.
But I think in this scene, I do think Peter does a good job of
Comes into the hotel,
throwing
bothers the guests.
Adam's character and the audience
Since his disappearance,
off the trail. It's like a good bit of misdirectors. He talks about
he
Jerry.
disappeared.
Again, a little bit of an exposition dump here.
They're suspicious.
These things, I really try to avoid them when I'm writing, but sometimes it just is what it is. You just gotta get across this information.
Go home, heal. I promise I'll call you myself if there's any up.
There was an earlier sequence of this where they're walking down the hallway. Once Adam says, I'm just shut up to get my stuff. And they walk down the hallway and Peter starts explaining, well, we called we didn't know who to call. We called a number, it turned out to be your ex-wife. And Adam's like, oh, what did she say? And he goes, oh, well, she said she wasn't surprised. It was only a matter of time. And, it's like a 40-second scene maybe. And it doesn't seem like it's going to make a big deal to the running time. But, you take that 40 seconds, you take 30 from somewhere else, you take 10 from somewhere else. Suddenly by the time you got 10 minutes lobbed off your movie, and you just always trying to keep it focused and keep the film moving. And as it's a horror film, people are just going just get up to the honeymoon suite. We know that's where all this is heading.
I'll be waiting for him.
It's very interesting architecture in this room. That the ceiling, I never got a good shot of it, but it was very there was the way the plaster work was done. It looked great. I tried to get the camera back wider, but it started to look strange. It started to look like it was going, take a look at this beautiful ceiling above him. It was strange. I was like, okay, I just have to ignore it and just stay focused on the story.
Okay, what about the honeymoon?
Again, those shutters are just there on location. When you get to a place, you start trying to block it out. In the early days, you go, like, what could the actors be doing? It's like, okay, I think Michael Patrick could be cleaning out the fire, and then he could pull down this big shutter to show that this place is old and strange, and it does seal up.
Always locked.
It's a nice bit of menace with him here too.
It's locked now.
It does feel like this kind of local guy who just knows everybody,
So
and
you might as well suggest that we
that Adam's the stranger.
Police talk to you?
I talk to the guards every day.
I like this. It's like I know people like this. Like, oh, they're my first cousins. I know them all. There was an original version of this script. This was the earlier script that I gave Dan Kagan that nobody liked after Oddity, and I think in that original version, Michael Patrick's character and Mal. So I think Fergal and Mal are actually caught by goes up to the honeymoon suite for other reasons, and when he hears them coming, he hides in the room and sees them come in, and for a while then it became the three of them were in the room. And again, that's where Dan's early ideas or his early notes were like going, just kind of focus this. And it's like, well, yeah, of course, it's so much scarier if it's just one guy in the room. So a lot of that dialogue then it kind of gets reworked and brought into this. We had a whole sequence of where that saw came from. Originally, Adam gets into his room. He finds that the box is locked. He's got to go find a saw. He steals the saw from Michael Patrick's bag, from Fergal's bag. He has an encounter with the witch there where the doors of the elevator open and then, she's kind of seen watching him, but then by the time he turns around, look, she's gone. Then he goes back to his room. And it's just very long. There's just no need for it. So that's why, again, when I did that pickup shot, I was like, okay, now I need to plant where that saw came from, that he just had this around the house and it somehow made it into his baggage. All of this stuff is just hopefully something that you get better with as you're writing more scripts and you're editing more films. You go, okay, just cut to the chase. Just get through this as quickly as possible. Again, this is the woods very close to Castle Freak in West Cork. We had the location cleared, and then we went back. We were like a week away from filming, and loads of trees had been cut down and stacked here. So there was just a major scramble into to clear all that out and to make it work. It was just these kind of funny challenges that come up. That always it's just the unpredictability sometimes of filming on location. You know, because you block it out and you go, okay, I'm ready to film there. I go there and I spend a lot of time just hanging around there and just walking around making all my decisions when the crew show up. You know, a couple of weeks from then,
She was very.
you're ready to go. And I think crews are always much happier with you when you're decisive and say that this is where we're going. This is what the camera is. You see, the book here is the book's written by Dee O'Dello. That's just a little nod to Carolyn Bracken's character, Darcy O'Dello in Oddity. You know, she played this witch, and she's interested in all the occult and haunted items. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool if she maybe wrote a book at some stage about all this stuff? Again, it's just nobody cares. It's just these things to try to tie these films together a little bit.
Why do you say that?
This was good. I really liked. This was a really fun day. In terms of working with actors, getting Adam and David together, just really loved watching the two of them go back and forth. And they got on really well as well. They were very, at the end of takes, they were complimentary to each other, and they'd kind of say, they'd quietly compliment each other's work, which is nice, which is really nice to see. That kind of supportive nature. That's a doorway that we had when I first arrived. I said, okay, let's build a fake cupboard there so that we can shoot through it to just make it somewhat interesting. This scene here, I was trying to figure out a different way to do it, and I had this. So I shot it two ways, and one is I had the camera kind of rise up over David, and we're seeing the back of his head, and then the camera just kind of climbs up over him and looks down, and Fiona was there. It just didn't work. It's very funny. Really like David's stuff there. It's like it's good. That always makes me laugh because it's like shaking his head and nodding, and it's like, what? All that, I enjoy that. That got a laugh in the cinema as well. But when it came to that scare with Florence, it just felt like, just do it the normal way, just misdirection, just focus on the bell and then just drop down and hit her with the camera.
How the hell? Right.
This is good. That was one of Adam's little touches. He goes, wouldn't it be good if he, adds a bit of levity to it. This scene used to end differently. Jerry said, he's a line where he says, like, we won't have to wait long. It's getting dark. And the scene that follows is the two of them sitting around in the dark, waiting to go, and they're having this conversation. And there was a lot of talk. I had to do a little bit of defending with the scene. So if you imagine there, David says, we won't have to wait long. It's getting dark. It just feels like a line that launches you into some movement or some piece of action. So it always would have made sense to cut from there to them marching through the woods. And once I removed that line and finished the scene there instead, where he says, like, I'd rather not go alone. It's just a much softer, gentler exit from the scene, which then helped make this scene make sense. It kind of made them feel like two halves as opposed to kind of let's go, let's cross the woods straight away and do this. It just felt like the natural cut then would be to show them moving, but all of this just felt so much better. There was a time I think I was the only fan of this scene, which was myself and Brian really liked it. And I think once we started cutting it down, it seemed to make more sense for people. I don't even think it had to do with performance or anything. I think it was just a case of just running time. And this would have been in the early days when the film was definitely longer. And I felt like, well, this is just an easy place to cut. You could just lose all this. But I just think it would be crazy because then you're losing all of this you're losing the two characters connecting, even though they're arguing. That I still think that they've got a common goal, and you're losing all of the connection to David Wilmot's character here. Other than that, he just becomes this kind of guy with one motive. He's just looking for this girl who works in the hotel, and all of this stuff about his wife and all that it would be lost. I think it would have been a shame to cut it, but now now, of course, everybody loves it now. The car's a little lost here. I wish I could have shot that differently. You can just get a hint of it passing in the background. I should have blasted them with light. This is Joseph Bashara's score here. Joseph's just horror legend for the amount of scores he's done, and he's also, I didn't realize he was an actor as well. He played like the demon in The Conjuring and the Insidious movies and all the stuff, and he's such a pleasant guy. Then it's usually the way people that make horror films, very dark, working on all this dark material, they usually seem quite pleasant, and Joseph's one of them. So this is all Joseph stuff. He was again brilliant to work with, because he had the experience, and you can kind of throw stuff at him, and he'll come back with some interesting ideas. That scene there, that little moment, that was very late, and that actually came from, I was watching the trailer for Longlegs, and Nicolas Cage does this strange pose. I didn't know what the film was about, but just like everybody, I loved the marketing of it. And Nicolas Cage did this strange pose. You see him in a shop, and I had no idea what the context of what this was. He's doing this weird move. I said, oh, that's so weird, so cool. I love the way he's doing that. And I just thought, and then again, it was a little bit of a steal. I said, okay, well, what if I'm just trying to find a way to physically get my actors to do something. And then I said, yeah, well, if Jerry was trying to kind of almost mimic Fiona, it would be my little nod to that. So that's where that came from. There was a little bit of debate here with us when we were doing the sound, kind of like, would he have heard that, and would Adam not have heard the struggle? I think we get away with it though, because there's enough reactions, kind of, did I hear something, and then the kind of looking away. So it seems to work. The idea with this was that I always kind of debated this a little bit, that if Adam should have, when I was writing it, should his character have attacked him or something? But it just made sense logically. Well, one, the guy is armed, and two, like Adam his character's just after getting out of hospital, so he's not going to be exactly fighting fit, and even the way he shows back up at the hotel, he does seem quite tired, like somebody that has been recovering. This is good. I'd like to have had more scenes between David and Michael here. This was, I think, the first or the second night filming. So again, everybody's just trying to settle into it, but this was the first thing I shot with Adam reacting to horror. And to see that, I mean, the way he puts his whole body into it, it's not just like his shoulders. I mean, his hand comes up. It's very good stuff, and you'd be surprised how tricky it is for some actors to act startled. Sometimes I just don't buy it, but when I saw Adam do that, I was like, oh, fantastic. This is gonna, and I think we didn't have the bell ringing at the time. I think I just said something like, okay, bell. And he does this, and I just like the way he puts his hands, shoulders, elbows, everything goes into it, which is great. So that was definitely it's a small thing, but it means a lot when you know that whoever's playing this part is going to have to be scared and startled the whole way through the movie. And that was a tricky one. We put mirrors on the back of the door. I saw that in a film. It was some film I'd been watching, and they had mirrors on the back of the door. And it wasn't a horror film, but I remember going, oh, that's really good. The way you angle, if there's a certain angle there, if you put it there could be somebody standing behind you and you wouldn't notice it. That's why sometimes watching just, if you want to be a horror filmmaker, just watching every type of horror movie, but just taking note of camera angles and mirrors and all this kind of thing that you can weaponize yourself when you're making something scary. Yeah, this is about to enter a long segment where there's just no dialogue. And again, that's why the casting of this was so important. You just needed somebody that could just take a really nice close-up and very expressive and physical. And Adam was all of those things. He was well up for it, and there was no... What was good, there was never any, like, should I be kind of commenting or should I be talking to myself out loud? Like he was like, no, he goes that he was very comfortable and just going, yeah, this guy is just silently trying to figure out how do I get out of the situation I'm in. This is all Till's work. This is we built it. I mean, when I first got to the set, you know, just seeing the structure of it up, the room felt massive. I was like, this is really big. And Till and I had a discussion early in the process. We were saying, well, what if the room was somewhat oversized? Because the whole film is about him, you know, as Jerry says, he's confronting these demons from his past, his trauma, and all that comes from his childhood. So we're saying, what if there was something almost childlike in his size in the room, that the room felt a lot bigger than it should be. I mean, it takes a long time to walk across the room. Things are slightly oversized. It just kind of makes him smaller. I think it was a really, really nice idea on with Till. Again, that's Paul McDonald who built that. All of this stuff can be tricky, and like how to introduce a scary location. I sometimes think you know, that it would have been better to maybe have done a POV shot and lead us through it, but there's something nice about just following him and kind of hiding behind him. If I could redo some of this, I would have him, like, you know, check the bed, check the wardrobe. They're kind of things I feel like you do. We did have a scene where Adam finds like a stick or something, and he starts kind of prodding the water as if there's something inside there, but you know, just people get it. He's checking the room. Sometimes you can make a bit of a meal out of these things. It was a late addition to put to raise the bed up on the wooden platform. You see, as we were planning it and looking at the model, I was just saying, like, how is he gonna? We need to be very clear that he can draw a chalk circle around that. You know, that it really shows up, so that platform was added. I think that circular window is one of the reasons I wanted to work with Till. It was the first thing he showed me. He opened up his book. We went for a coffee just when we were talking about working together, and he opens up his book and he goes, I was thinking about circular windows. And at that I was like, you got the job. I don't know what it was. I just liked the idea of it. I think I had ideas that maybe on the poster or in the trailer I could use the circular window as, you know, that kind of porthole as the O of Hokum. Never ended up happening, but this sequence again, it's kind of a strange kind of a one-man play about it. When Adam saw the set, he goes, this reminds me of doing one-man shows or doing plays when I was younger. And I said, I used to work, I used to do all my work experience in the Granary Theatre in Cork, just like mopping the floors, and it was the same kind of thing. That shot became we had shot all the stuff with Will that day as Jack.
What are you doing here?
And I think we had 5 minutes, and I said, wouldn't it be really cool if just to see you in the flesh, to not see you just on the TV? And there was no time to film this. I said, what I want you to do is, can we just run over here and just stick your head through the canopy just very quickly? And like I think we had like 60 seconds of footage, but this is where having the crew on your side is excellent, because, you know, I really threw this at them. I said, like, we have 5 minutes. I want to get Will over here and stick his head through this and shoot it, but you got to light this. You know, shooting every single thing just takes so much longer than you thought. But I had Porrick, who's the gaffer in this, did the lighting, and just, you know, he was helping put up rigging. We'd all this rigging put up for Albie's talk show. That segment of the TV, actually, we shot that right in front of the bed there. But all of that had to be very quickly stripped down, dismantled, and just basically get Will to stick his head through it. So there was a bit of a panic. But then, of course, that shot ends up becoming the poster and the kind of main leading then for the marketing. Same thing happened on Oddity. It had like a little bit of time, and I said to Caroline, can we just sit you at the table here across from the wooden man in the same pose? And then that became the poster. So yeah, there's a little bit of a trend developing there of these last minute improv shots.
Oh, look at that.
There is nothing down there.
That's good. I like Adam's face here. That button again drove me crazy. What it was in the... the button would push in, but it would just stick. It wouldn't pop back out, and it was just one of these things. You arrive on the day and you're going, why doesn't the button pop back out? These small little things. It's like, I really feel you have to check every single thing that goes in front of the camera. And it was just one of those things I didn't check, and yeah, I mean, it's not a big deal, but I just knew there'd be close-ups of the button, and if we wanted the button to push back out, it meant somebody would have to be inside the wall. It was a little crazy. This is good. This is very much leaning into the start of this kind of that character in Ghost, that Tony Goldwyn kind of fumbling desperation. Peter, I don't know, was it Lara's idea? But there's a little bit of, it was actually Lara Campbell who did the costume. There's a bit of the William H. Macy in Fargo kind of vibe to him as well, with the big keep warm jacket. That worked well. This is all, that's all still on the set, and then that's matching then with the location shots. The addition of Adam's dialogue here, taken from his recorder, was again a last minute idea. We did record other stuff where it's kind of like a drunken rant, or as if he'd been recording him, as if Owen had been recording himself drunk, complaining about his father, and it just didn't feel as funny or as something. Whereas I felt like there was a little bit of karma with this, kind of calling back to when Adam was cruel to Albie, to play it there. And then again, all of these is storyboarded and intentionally try to work out these cross dissolves beforehand. There's Letty again, my girlfriend, and there's her friend Anna. They were they've been helping me since Caveat. They were painting floors and walls when we had zero budget on the set of Caveat.
He's famous, you know.
This was a little bit of a longer sequence. Again, kind of maybe a little bit of time and budget here, or maybe on my behalf, not thinking it through fully, but there is a Halloween party taking place down the hall, and it all plays off camera. And we had a few extras that were dressed up, but this is something that if I could reshoot it, I would definitely have more presence with other guests. I mean, from here on, it's fine because everybody is supposed to have cleared out, obviously. But just for that initial, okay, people are arriving at the party, feels empty, too empty for me. It's something I feel like I dropped the ball on. But again, you don't see these things till you're in the edit. But all you can do is try to learn from it. This was good. I like this. This is kind of a shot we repeat then later on when Peter is when it's all over for Peter. So this is kind of where his troubles begin, and it's kind of where they end then as well. This guy coming down the hall here, Daniel Richardson. He's a YouTuber, and he does these Dan Drambles. There he is with his costume off. I'd just been when I was writing this, I'd just been watching a lot of his YouTube reviews. He did this wholesome Halloween series. And we just ended up connecting online, and I told him, we're filming if you wanted to come over and just kind of see the set and hang around. And we ended up putting him in the film. But yeah, really nice guy. And I guess the name Bauman as well, Owen Bauman. I'm a fan of the Red Letter Media reviewers, and they had done a very nice review of Oddity, and I've been watching them for years. So I guess I'd been writing this when I was reading. I said, okay, Bauman. That one of the guys on that is called Bauman. I said, okay, let's make him Owen Bauman. It sounds very American. Those shots were tricky because the camera is, so if you can imagine the camera, that's a horizontal set, that dumbwaiter shaft. So when Peter is looking, when his head looks like it's coming in the top, that's just him standing on the ground with his head poking up into the floor of the set, and the actor is actually, that's their back against the floor, and they're just being dragged along, and then we just flip it to make it look like it's like we're descending. I was never sure if it was going to work, and it was difficult for everybody to get in and out of that box and to act. They're kind of acting against gravity, so they're trying to look up, but they're trying to kind of raise their back up off the wall because, naturally gravity wouldn't just force you back against the back of the dumbwaiter. So it was tricky for all of them, but it was just one of those things where it felt like the most practical way to do it.
He wasn't happy with me for keeping the baby.
That's my chair there. I seem to have worked I bought this chair years ago when I moved back home, and I started to kind of say, right, I'm going to be serious about getting into filmmaking now. I'd moved back to Bantry in West Cork, and day one I found this really nice chair in an antique shop. It cost like €50 or something like this, but it became like the central prop in Caveat, and then again it was used in the antique shop in Oddity, and here it is again in this. Just something about it. I like just reusing these props that look nice on camera.
Someone finds this message.
This was a long sequence, just filming these. Everybody just on their knees for, a couple of days. Adam was very good-natured about it. I think he came in one day. He was like, very nice about it. He was like, I'm not going to miss filming this sequence. He said, I'm not going to miss crawling in under here. And I was like, I'm not going to miss filming it either. It was just, it's just these cramped spaces and the camera's so close, and even shooting stuff like this on macro. But it works. It gets across that sense of claustrophobia and desperation. I used to work as an electrician, so this is the kind of thing that would happen to me. You'd be changing an old light that's been up for 50 years, and you'd get one screw out, and then you realise the next screw is a different head, or it's completely rusted flat, and his reaction would pretty much be the same as mine when he realises he can't open it. I like the kind of real basic horror, just something behind you. I always find when I'm writing that if I know the writing is working, if I start to get creeped out and I kind of start to glance over my shoulder a little bit, it means, okay, good. This is starting to get under my skin, which means it should get under somebody else's. I always think it's a mistake to try to write something, think this is going to scare somebody else. It kind of has to scare you first. This is just poor man's process, as they call it. It's the van is parked. It's just all the crew are outside, just rocking the van. There's a canopy over the front of the van because we shot it during the day just to black it out. Michael Patrick's pretending to drive, so we're just standing on the ground behind this now. It's and then these are our travelling shots. Then that was one of our stunts. Just David's all rigged up to the back of that for safety. And again, you're back to just the van being rocked and a wind machine blowing at him. And this works. It's very, very old-fashioned, basic tricks. I had wanted to shoot a scene of Jerry actually waking up in the woods, but again, just time, and let's just keep it vague, and just maybe he didn't make it. We had put a sting over that originally, just to underline her, but there's something so much creepier about the audience having to find her. And what's been funny watching it is that I hear people reacting to her at different times. You'll hear that kind of gasp or a little bit of a scream, and you might, somebody's like, what are they reacting to? And then you see her, and I think that's, you try to vary up all your scares. That's absolutely autobiographical. That used to be my job. Just get to these screws, you're like, oh fuck, why doesn't this thing open? That hourglass was is about to vanish as well. There was a whole sequence with that we ended up cutting, and it just mysteriously vanishes. But we didn't. We just left it. I thought it might be one of these things that could be left open to interpretation a little bit. Again, Adam was great with this, because I think at this stage the mush, he is starting, for me, I think he's starting to trip at this, because even this kind of very, very odd kind of paranoid feel. I mean, fair enough, a corpse has gotten up and walked away, but there's something in the way he plays that it does feel a little bit like that stuff is starting to the psilocybin starting to enter his system. I really like the way he did it. I think it drops enough breadcrumbs that that some of this is real and some of it isn't. It did became a bit of a thing with the script as well. Initially, it was like, but was it all a dream? And I'll get to that later on. But I like to think that all of this is actually happening. The timing of this was a little tricky to get right. We had him coming out faster, but you kind of missed her, and we held on that cut for a little longer before. But it's the funniest things with scares. It's like sometimes taking out a frame, like literally taking out a frame or two, changes whether or not it's scary. It's the strangest thing. You'll watch it and go, I don't know why that's not working, and you'll just clip off the smallest little piece of it. It's like, okay, now it works. I have no idea why. Except my editor Brian, between this and Oddity, we'll find like, yeah, there's stuff here that's very close, and we just got to find the right frame. Now, there was some restructuring done in the edit here. Originally, he had taken a break here and sat down, as we see later, but it felt better just to kind of punish him and put all this together. This, for example, that shot with the reverse looking over his shoulder, that was different before. That was just, he kind of stoops down and starts getting engrossed in his eyes. And I think originally we had a shot where we'd actually done CGI to make these kind of goat eyes, as if he'd really started to trip. But it felt too strange.
We're gonna read our next letter. Dear Jack.
This is great. The idea of this was always that, I don't think he looked like this, but this is just how Ohm remembers him. I think if you were to go back and watch that, if Ohm was to go back and watch that show or see a picture of him, he obviously didn't look like this demonic. I think it's just a mix of the mushrooms and the fact that this thing happened to be on television when he had this traumatic event happen. I think the big clue here is that he is tripping, and this is kind of what Jerry says about facing his demons, is that if you look at his glasses, that's just static. And then you look at the TV, and this is what he's seeing. And I think it's very intentional, because we had done VFX on his glasses before, where we had taken what's on the TV screen and we had superimposed it into where that snow and that static is. But it was like, yeah, but that means it's actually happening. That means that is what's reflected. Whereas for me, it felt like, wouldn't it be more interesting if it's a little vague? If you can't really see that, you can't really see what's in the reflection of his glasses too clearly. This was a little bit of a nod to the Evil Dead 2 when after things simmer down in that movie, Ash is sitting in the chair and he's just trying to get his shit together, and he starts kind of looking around and freaking out, and then things kick off. This is obviously much more subdued than that, but that was the idea. This is just to keep that plate spinning as well. One is to show that he's very much in his mind, because that's where those characters exist. I think there's something about Ezra pointing at the fire escape to say, like, there is a way out there, even though it's not all that helpful because it's a dead end. There was a lot of restructuring here in the edit, just trying to find a way to get him through all of the horror, get him out of that drug trip, and have him start to come back to reality. And I always felt like this is where that's starting to happen now. Like he's starting to get his shit together again.
The dumbwaiter button's broken. I can't use it to get back up. I can't find a way out.
It's a little bit of a cheat, I guess, just to have this recorder magically come on and point out if you go down there, there's no coming back. Originally, I think instead of a recorder, it was a Polaroid camera that Fiona had been taking on the night. A recorder just made so much more sense. I mean, he's a writer. In terms of visually, I thought, or in terms of just the horror, it would be more interesting to have that. it allows you to do creepy things with the sound. That how we did that was we built the metal frame of the dumbwaiter, and then there's a forklift just parked to the side of the set. That's simply just raising it up and down, and it's only going that far. I mean, the minute it clears frame there, the minute it clears frame, it's hitting the ground. I really like this moment with Adam. You can kind of see him resetting. He's like, okay. It's a strange choice, but it's good. It completely makes sense. It's like you can kind of see him trying to work this out without getting into any kind of description of, wait a minute, she wasn't here a moment ago, but now she's back. He just does it with this one little step back. Because we'd restructured it, there is a little bit of a continuity thing there that nobody notices, which I shouldn't point out, but it's the trolley, the room service trolley is a little bit further back there than it should be. It should be right alongside him, but you buy it. It's kind of like it feels like it's just placed right on the edge of it. So it makes sense in the edit, and it makes sense for how we did it. But sometimes when I watch it, it feels wrong to me. I like the framing on this. I like that odd, strange framing. He's really pushed off to the edge. I must remember to do more stuff like that. I like it. There's just something unsettling about it. This is good. I like all Steve's work here with the creaking of the dumbwaiter and how unstable and risky this thing is. Yeah, again, so if you watch Adam here, I mean, he's trying to pull himself away from the back. I mean, that back wall is the floor, so it's a tricky thing. And it was just, I knew we could do it because it was just me very, very short shots, but it ended up working. So we've moved location now. Now we're in the basement of Castle Freak. We had originally planned to build all of this, but just time and budget and trying to replicate something that exists like this, I don't, it would have been difficult to do. Whereas if you find an existing location like this that you can just make work, it's a lot of fun. I mean, it was a beautiful castle in West Cork overlooking the sea, and there's woods to one side of it and the sea to the other. So it was a lovely environment to film in as well. But these were tough days. We had to shoot everything in the basement. I think it was about 2 days. So it was all of this. It was the finale. It was every single minute counted. I don't think I've ever gone over filming. Usually we're on time every day. I like to storyboard every single frame of the film and every head turn and movement to just have it all there. But this was a day I did need an extra half an hour. But again, when you have the cast and the crew behind you, it does help to feel supported. This was a longer sequence. We had Adam going all the way down the hall, doing a lot more exploration, but it kind of felt like it's all ultimately going to arrive at the same place. He's gonna walk down and find that it's a dead end. So maybe we should just get to that, just so we can begin the chase. You'll always shoot more coverage than you need. I don't think we lost a whole lot, but still every single shot takes time, so everything you don't end up using, you kind of go like, oh man, it's maybe I could have put that into something else, but you need it all. It's just good to have that choice. Better to be looking at it than looking for it. That was a fake wall that we built just at the end of the castle, just to show that this was sealed up at some stage. This gag here now does lean very much again into Evil Dead 2 type recording, where it says, Ash has been put in the basement. They're like, God help me, I buried her in the earthen floor of the fruit cellar. It's a bit of a steal, but hopefully with these things you put your own spin on them. That's good stuff there with Florence. Yeah, it sounds very strange, and those kind of strange fox cries, the kind of mimicking of a fox crying that the witch is doing, I find is quite unsettling. We had played around a lot with that. We were saying, okay, is it kind of a witch cackle? What is it that she could be doing? Is it the the screams of a goat? But just those fox cries seem to make the most sense. This is all this old Ogham lettering. All this stuff just to look ancient and have kind of a pagan feel to it, as if a door to hell is going to open there. Yeah, again, I remember discussing this on the day. It was like, what exactly starts him running? Should it be his alarm going off? Should it be the light failing? Or should it be the fact that there's some strange noise growing behind this dark wall? I was like, yeah, let's just say it's all three. Let's just give him absolutely no reason to stay. And this thing is very much where you get into your the beginning of a long chase sequence. I do really like the sequence. I'm very proud of this. I think this worked great. I think Adam did really good work here. In the original cut, those lights are left on, and you see the witch walk all the way down the hall towards him. It just never felt all that scary. It had a feeling of like Darth Vader walking down a brightly lit hall. And just when we were late in the edit, I said, wouldn't it be so much scarier if we just turned off the lights and we can just hear her coming in? You can hear the chain, you can hear, this kind of, this kind of cackling, horrible sound getting closer and closer. I just think your imagination would be so much more engaged. I think it was a good choice. It worked. And then these kind of push-ins and working with the VFX team and just to steal this shot here as you see her coming out of the shadow. That's stolen from a different shot and placed in here, and they put a little bit of light in the eyes. Paul McDonnell also built larger scale heads of that little cherub on top of the clock, that little figurine. I just knew that I wanted to get right in there to get that kind of cheeky smile he's doing, and I was concerned that even with macro, getting right in tight with the camera, that it still wouldn't pick up something that small. So that's why we had these larger heads built to make sure we got it across. Yeah, there you go. I mean, that's quite a large head, but just in the edit, it feels like it's the size of a thumb. So again, Adam is looking. We just flipped all this upside down just to make it feel like you're looking down. I mean, Adam is just standing on the ground there, just poking his head up through the floor of the set. And then Sue, who plays the witch, Sue was great. Sue was, I don't know if she'd done a lot of acting, it was a lot of modelling, but she was well up for it. I mean, she came in just a burst of energy into the place. She was really into the character. She was a lot of fun to work with. Again, this is what I say about Adam. The way he reacts to horror is fantastic. I mean, the whole body's going into it. And it's like, it's like that kind of not sure what to do. Emer O'Grady did our stunt work on this. That's Jacobus, our stuntman, taking the hit there. That was a very late addition to this. I think that I actually came in after storyboarding, because I realised when I was drawing my storyboards that at the end of the movie, Ogham is very clean. It's like to look at him, you'd question if he'd been through anything. There might be a little bit of scuffs on his face or his jacket from being in the basement, but I wanted him to feel like he'd really been through something. At the end of Die Hard or again The Evil Dead 2, they're covered in blood and bruises and dust and dirt. And I was thinking, well, if we had a big bathtub just full of this horrible water, we took a dive into it. One, it would make the chase so much more exciting because. He said, it's the only way through is to kind of splash into this horrible, into this horrible pool, and then for the rest of the film, every time you look at him, you go like, oh man, like he's really been through it, and it wasn't in the script. It definitely came in for storyboarding. So it's something I must again try to keep in mind, that at the end of a film like this, when you look at your character, you should say, like, one look at him, you go like, yeah, he's been through it. And I think most horror films. That's not anything groundbreaking. I think probably nearly every horror film at the end of it, they look like they've Like they've really been through an ordeal. Again, this was Jenny, who works with Steve. She's work on the Evil Dead Rise, and she does these great. She's great with her voice. The stuff she's able to do. She added in a lot of extra dialogue here. I think she's again, it's Irish, and she's like, what have you drawn here? This is very strange. How did you know about this? She's kind of narrating as she's going. I really like this idea of continue. Dawn should signify safety, and I like the idea of what if we just continued that weird, that Joseph Bashara's score there. There's kind of a Ligeti kind of Penderecki kind of feel to it. What if we just continued that right over this? It kind of feels like you'd ignore Dawn, then and go like, yeah, it doesn't matter. The sun's up, but nobody is safe yet, and just leave it go, leave it roll right through it. And I think just with Peter's performance, it worked really nicely. That hatchet is actually put in afterwards with VFX. It just never felt like it was established. That I should have. It was my failure. I just didn't establish that hatchet correctly, and it is in Peter's hands when they're walking back through the lobby afterwards. But it bothered me. I felt like we really need to show that hatchet hasn't just appeared out of nowhere. It is in David Wilmot's hand originally. He was kind of using it to try to leverage open the gate, but it was just a little bit lost the way I filmed it.
You find Mr. Bauman drunk.
Again, fake blood is a funny thing with films. You can put it on the day on the set, and it looks like, oh yeah, like they're covered in blood. The minute you watch the rushes, blood just vanishes. If I could, he looked. I think he looks great. I think that Niamh, who did all of the special effects, the makeup through this, did a brilliant job. Even with Will's design of Jack the donkey is incredible. There's something about blood that I should always go more. And they always say to me, do you want more? And I go, no, that looks pretty good. So if I ever do blood again, I must just always say, yes, let's go more, because for some reason about 20% of it seems to vanish on film. This Chalk Circle is an old Russian movie from the 60s called V.I.Y. I always really liked it. They kind of lean into all this old folklore of protective chalk circles and the cock crowing to hunt away the witch. It's a really good, strange folklore movie. I definitely took inspiration from. I think Hokum in general is just a big mix of a lot of stuff that I've really loved over the years, and you try to put it into your own script and try to do your spin on all these old stories. So you can see the hatchet in Peter's hand there, but I just always felt like it was lost. Like even in the colour grading, Gary Kern did the colour grade. He did a brilliant job. And it's just, we even put a little bit of a pop of light there on the thing just to highlight it. And I just always felt it was lost. And that's where the idea of putting in that VFX shot worked. There's a lot of hidden little things like that in films. In this film too. Small little things that nobody would notice as VFX, but they are in there.
They know about you.
Again, this scene was like a lot of scenes. The scene was ever so slightly longer. There was more of a back and forth with them. I think Peter was telling him, I can't imagine how difficult that must have been. He's much more, there's kind of a worm tongue vibe to him. He's really in his ear, kind of, trying to appease him and kind of feel like, I'm all for you. But it just felt like, no, they're doing enough without all that dialogue. You get it. This score here was definitely the trickiest to get right in the film, because we tried horror and we tried thriller and the scene is a little there's something kind of there's a bit of a farce about it, and I said, well, maybe we should just start leaning into the kind of comedy of it somewhat. And it was like, well, we've got three characters, and what if each one of them almost had their own instrument or their own motif in some way, that like Adam is this, and then when you cut to Peter it's these high strings, and when you cut to Jerry, because Jerry is the threat, there's something more, there's something that kind of bass about it. And you see you got Peter's, Peter's piece of the score coming through there, and then you cut to Jerry, and he's almost like the shark in Jaws. It's all up. It's all down to whether or not things get heavier here now, because the whole thing hinges on whether or not that this man comes back. And I think once we discussed that, then it really started to make sense, and it just became about how do we amp it up and keep cross-cutting, because I think the three actors and Brian, the editor, they did a really good job of getting all this to work. Yeah, you kind of have the sense that it's all over. Myself and Brian did do one cut where we said, what if Jerry just left, and we just get a sense that there's none of this near miss, none of this farce of him coming and going, like an episode of Frasier. It's like, is he going to get caught? But in the end, it didn't make sense. It just felt very anticlimactic, and it was like it kind of robbed the scene afterwards. I love that shot. That's Roman very slowly following David with the steady cam. A nice nod to Texas Chainsaw Massacre when she's walking towards the house, the kind of low angle looking up. It's great. Yeah, Peter's definitely in that kind of fumbling, terrible villain mode there, just desperate. Originally in the script, Adam takes a bottle and puts a note in it and smashes the window, or manages to get his hand out through the hole in the glass, or through the hole in the metal, and drops the bottle. And I think that, whatever it was, the bottle didn't break, or he has a note inside it, whatever, I'm in the honeymoon suite or something like this. And it just felt very flat. It felt like there was no way to engage the three actors. It just felt like he's tried to get him a note and he's failed. And, there was no kind of room then to lean into sound design or score or build any tension. So this was the alternative to that. Again, it was challenging here. There's so much conversation and back and forth and trying to figure out, should we keep the score going here? Or do we just kind of let it sit in the background? Very tricky stuff. I mean, now it all makes sense, but it's just at the time, every single iota, you kind of, you agonize over these things. And then you forget all about them. You go, yeah, of course, this was just the right choice.
Damn it!
The song coming on here, these things happen in editing, which I always find strange, where we had this cut, and it's cut the way it is, and I thought, well, with this wide shot with Adam, it would be nice to bring back in Oft in the Stilly Night, with the old Irish ballad which plays as which brings him to the hotel. And I just thought, wouldn't it be cool if we brought that back in, so you almost had the sense of like, is the film over? Maybe the film just ends here, and like a downbeat episode of The Twilight Zone or The Outer Limits, where it just cuts to black. I was like, okay, well that film's a bit of a bummer, and it felt like you could have done that there, and it was very much to lead into that sense. So we just started playing the song, and I said, we just dropped it into the edit, and I said, we'll get out of this at some stage. We'll find a way back out of the song, and just so strange, the song and the edit, I'd say 95% lined up the way it is, and we really couldn't believe it. We were like, okay, well that's kind of meant to be. That song is just supposed to be on top of this footage. It was one of those really brilliant things that happen, that you kind of feel like an audience member then, because you didn't craft it or you didn't do it intentionally. It just happened. That's very sitcom kind of, very silly stuff, but it works. I mean, the actors are completely committed to it. I remember saying to Adam, that was a tricky one. I went over to say to Adam, I said, like, okay, this is where you've, and I told him, I said, this is going to be kind of hard to describe, or hard to articulate it. And I hate giving actors notes. I just try to leave them alone. But I said, it's like the feeling is, okay, you know that he's downstairs, so it's like, deal with this. And that's the way Adam played it, this kind of angry, kind of like, fuck you, yeah, deal with this, I got you now. And, he completely nailed it.
You don't know Fiona like I did. She wasn't a good...
This took three or four times to get right. It's just my favourite shot. It's just, I think Peter's so good.
Kill for less over the
he almost seems like a crazy preacher there or something. It's just really, really loved their work here. That was our last shot with David Wilmot. He was like, "Can I carry the keys inside with me teeth?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, Grant." Guys, so good. That sequence, yeah. I mean, this whole sequence kind of reminds me a little bit of not comparing myself by any means, but there's a scene in the Coen Brothers in Miller's Crossing where they just let Danny Boy, Oh Danny Boy, they let that song play throughout this whole Tommy gun shootout, this failed attempt on Albert Finney's character, and I always loved it. I found it very moving, and because the action is quite an action-packed sequence with fire and guns, and then the song that's playing is quite sweet. And again, this is something I wanted to try. It kind of felt like that. It felt like, okay, this is hopeful, and Adam's about to be rescued, and Peter's about to get caught, and Jerry's okay, and I remember watching this for the first time, and the song was still playing. We were going like, oh my God, this is actually going to line up. It was really nice. As you can see there, the hourglass is after mysteriously vanishing. This is so rewarding to watch this, because the gasp in the audience when Peter appears behind him it's just been so much fun to watch.
You okay?
Like, I've seen the film 3 times now with the crowd, and you don't even hear him say "I live" because the reaction is so big, and it's great for David because it shows that the work that he did, how they just connected with his character, and it just seemed to time so nicely with how that song finished. And then because that song is gone and you're left with all this emptiness, there's a lovely feeling then of like, okay, well, where to now? And I love that in movies. Like, I have no idea where this is going now. It's like there's no way out of this. The unpredictability of it. That's a little set that we built. That's a replica of the office, just with the carpet and all that, moved to the studio, where we were able to set it on fire with the crew. It was funny because when we shot David's sequence where he gets shot, I kept having him kind of get blown out of frame. He'd fall away very sharply, and he was like, "Can I try something?" And I said, "Sure, yeah, of course." Like, you let people try everything. And he goes, "I just want to get shot and just kind of fall over." So he got shot, and he kind of held and kind of peeled over slowly. And I remember he just did it just to show us without us filming it, but everybody started laughing, which isn't good. But I think it just showed how warm they were towards David. And I was like, no. I said, like, let's try it. There's something in that. And I wasn't really sure myself because it did seem a little bit comedic, whereas the way I wanted it done was kind of very much like a violent, kind of like a gunshot, where it's, whips right out of camera. And of course, the way we used it were his instincts. They were absolutely correct, because it's like shot, turn, and peel out. And there's just something. It just felt a lot better for him. So again, you try not to be too rigid with your ideas with everything, and just stay open, and you'll get good stuff. I think I'm learning that with every film I make.
The hotel is on fire. There's no way out down there. I'll bring you back up with the key, and we can both leave.
The alarm here, we went through so many variations of this alarm. The one we kept coming back to was the old Alien, Ridley Scott's Alien, the 1979, I think it was the trailer, the original teaser trailer for that just has an alarm going off. It's like that self-destruct spaceship. When the spaceship is about to self-destruct, there's this alarm going. And it was the reference we kept coming back to. It was like, that's, there's something very, very just creepy and ghostly about it. And if the alarm is dying, it'll take on that kind of haunting quality. And that's even the idea of that low shot back there traveling with Adam. It's very much leaning into that framing of Scott's Alien. That close-up of the witch there, it's accompanied very quickly by the sound of shackles snapping closed. It was something that bothered me because I never got that clear shot that Adam has been chained, that he's also been put in shackles. So I just did this quick snap of chain locking, of the shackles locking, just in the hopes that the audience would pick up on that. And usually they do. I mean, audiences I'm an audience too, and none of us are given enough credit. I mean, you really are paying attention to a film when you're watching it. Again, I think this was towards the. Yeah, I think this was the date. This was the second morning of this, and we were definitely getting tired because it was so much to shoot in this hallway, and you're trying to keep a hallway interesting. It's tricky. It was very tricky stuff. But I think it works. I had debated. I mean, you always go back and you wonder if you could reshoot this. Would I have done it differently? And there's something about this. Sometimes I wonder, would I have been better if I just left off all of the lights in this hallway and just had that one source light? Just let that one practical do all the heavy lifting, but potentially not. Maybe it just wouldn't have looked as nice, or I wouldn't have had that play with shadow the way I have here. But I'll never know. Maybe when if somebody ever remakes it someday, they can try it. There's a little bit of VFX done on the hand there, just to make it a little bit more witch-like. Again, Jenny did all of the hair. Jenny have worked on Oddity and Hokum. We just had to tie it back a little bit. It looks great. Just had to tie it back a little bit to show those metal rings sticking through. This is really, really good stuff with Adam too. I mean, again, it was a cold Irish castle sitting on the floor. Who knows? Maybe the tears were real with the misery of filming. It was definitely a tough day, but they did great. Everybody was very locked into this, and it's nice too when you actually see what your first audience filming anything is the crew. I mean, you kind of see that crew reaction around the monitor, and we had kept this. I just wanted to clear out the room a little bit, just to kind of give actors. I try to give actors space when I can, but the reaction after this was wonderful. It was what we wanted. People found it very moving. Again, the score here, it's Cullum's score coming back in to have that little bit of hope and to show him coming out of this trance that the witches put him under. The continuity in the train on the chain on the ground was another tricky one to watch on the day. Trying to figure out, well, one should be straight and one should be kind of snaking across, and there's only a shot or two of it, but it's tricky. It was John the Grip, one of the grips, the main grip, who figured out how to do that shot. I had built fake legs, like puppet legs that I was going to slide along the ground, but John had built this, he built like a whole rig, so Peter's kind of sat on a rig there, and we're sliding him towards us. All that VFX there, the lads did. Dan and Johnny and Alan, they did a fantastic job of bringing those demons to life. On the day, they were just background actors covered in latex with two glow in the dark pieces of tape just to mark the eyes. And I'm always cautious with CGI, but I think what they did there is really great stuff. It feels like it has that in-camera look to it. So I think they absolutely convinced me that these things can work really well. This was the shot I'd missed, and it was the last day, and I think this was Adam's last day. And whatever reason, I couldn't sleep the night before, and I was like, okay, do I absolutely have everything? Because the sets are going to be torn down. Everybody's going home. It's done. And I realized we'd gotten everything after this. We'd gotten the fire, the escape, and the elevator. I just did not get that one shot back there where he climbs out. So it was like first thing in the morning. I said to Jim, I said, "Oh, we're after missing this," and he was like, straight to Adam. I said, "We're after getting." He said, "Oh, we better get that. We better get that." So because it's so important to see him escape. David was funny there, just lying on the ground. I think there's even a wide shot of the room at some stage. You could just see a pair of feet in the background. It's like David's he's just committed. He's just happy just to lie there. He's a very, very relaxed guy, very laid back. All of those walls then had to be specially built day one to be able to handle the fire. And it's kind of this it's a mix of kind of like a flame bar which just shoots out a flame, and then this gel that they put on the wall and ignite, and it burns really hot and fast, and it dies very quickly. So the fire might last about maybe 30 seconds before you feel it starting to dim, and then we put it out, and then we light it up again. So it's a very controlled, safe process. You obviously have to know. I mean, these guys really knew what they were doing. Brendan Byrne was the name of the guy. Byrne, that was in charge of all that. This was not a late addition to the script. It was just a way to bring Fergal back in, to give him some kind of redemption, because he's in the way the whole way through the film, and it kind of felt like he's trying to do the right thing. He's going about it the wrong way. Like, he is trying to find Fiona, but he's just convinced that it's Jerry, and nothing's going to put him off that. So it's like, this just felt like a way to an extra day filming with Michael, which I just wanted to work with him more, just because he was such a pleasure. But then it was a way to kind of have a little bit of redemption for that character too. And I mean, all that's real fire. I think there's little bits maybe that are just complemented with CG, but it is all real. Like, you could feel the flames, you could feel the heat walking through it. The original ending in the script was Adam never makes it out of the basement. He ends up somehow, I think his laptop was on him in his satchel or something, and he ends up there in the basement, opens up the laptop and starts writing. He's just sitting in the dumbwaiter at the end of the film, just writing. And it felt bleak, and I think it's kind of the whole idea of the film that, try to put something more positive out there, something a bit more entertaining. I also have this thing where you see like horror films that might be brilliantly made, but they're very downbeat. I never go back to watch them. Like, if the film finishes, you go like, oh, that's excellent. I never want to see it again because it's just so heavy. Whereas I'd always revisit horror films that even have a little bit more of an, even if it's a dark ending, like something like John Carpenter's The Thing, it still feels entertaining, and this kind of, there's a glimmer of hope here. There might be a way out of this yet. The script of this was Adam's character was much crueler to Albie. He was still, he kind of taking the piss out of his job more, the fact that he works in an ice cream shop, and still belittling him. And we shot it all. It was a longer scene, but it kind of went, well, it doesn't really feel like there's much of a change, this guy. I didn't want to defang him completely. I still wanted him to feel like he is still that, he's still that character, but he's just a little bit more open. There is a change in him. And I think the lads did a really good job here. I do feel that change more. And when we removed a few of those extra lines, like for example, when Albie first comes in, he says, the nurse said I only have 5 minutes. And Adam goes, well, thank God for that. And it's just, and he's joking because he laughs after it, but it kind of, he's just still feeling like he's picking on this guy for no reason. So I think where we landed here, we found the balance.
I tried to speak to you at the bar that night.
And I think Adam's idea as well, can we just use his name? Can I call him Albie just so there's some connection there? This was brought back in because I just wanted this little bit of a cutaway back to Jerry. One is just a nice way to keep him in mind and to kind of sign off with him, but it was also to really highlight that this wasn't all a dream. Like, all of this did happen, and these things do exist, as Jerry says. It's just when you're under the spell of these mushrooms, or when you have this in your system, then you're able to see these things. So it's like, if they were to go back to the woods now, that witch is still there. She's still roaming around. If they were to dig up that hotel, they'd find those tunnels underneath it. So it's like, it's not all just in his mind.
If you wanted something to pass the time, I could bring in my manuscript.
It just felt like a nice positive way to finish on the film, just a light way. And again, we cut back to our bookends then in the desert. We shot out in the UAE, and it was Imagination in Abu Dhabi that guided us through that. And again, it was just such a lucky coincidence that they happened to be set there, and then there was a part of the script that I wanted to film there. And they had entertained, maybe we could shoot this in Ireland, or we could find a beach, but there was just nothing like, or shoot it with special effects, but nothing could have captured what we have there. So they were, they were really, it was really great to have their guidance through this. And it was just nice. It was a nice way to kind of underline that Irish and UEA connection. So you can see the sun is setting fast here. This was a very tough shoot. We shot this a couple of weeks later, and I think especially to capture the very last shot of the film I would put it down as the most difficult day I've had filming. It really, really took it out of me. It was just a number of things. I couldn't get close to the actors because you couldn't walk on the sand, because footprints of, you're trying to communicate with them from afar. I chose this spot. I wanted to keep us very close to to base camp, just so we wouldn't be trekking off into the desert for no reason. I just for safety and just for comfort. I said, I just said to Rami, the producer, based there, I said, well, where's our camp going to be? And he said, here. I said, great, let's shoot as close to that as possible, because it's going to be a difficult day anyway, so let's make it easy on ourselves. I didn't need to be, Werner Herzog heading off into the middle of the desert to capture this. I love Herzog. No disrespect to him. So this closing shot, this was just very difficult, but it's lovely now when I watch it, because it's melancholy for sure, and there's something kind of sad about it, because it was myself and Jim. As I said, Jim was the first AD, Jim Corr, and it was so loved and just so respected in the Irish film industry. And I really feel like it was him that that my first time on a film set was Oddity, and he very much guided me through that. And it's just when I watch the shot now, I do think of him, and I know the two of us were standing off camera, just watching that sunset, and it was just, we were like, we got one shot at this, and even when you see the sun, like, it's right through the horizon, so like that was it. It's a beautiful ending. I'm very, very proud of it. You never know if you're ever going to get to make another film or what will happen, but if that's the last thing I film, it's a nice way to end. Hopefully I'll get to make more. The idea obviously is that there is hope there, and that that this is Adam's character, writing these things more positively, and the goat's skull, and the song playing there is a cover of 282. It's a hymn, I'm Going Home, done by the Sacred Harp Choir in Cork. It's just a cover of a very old song. 282 is the hymn, and I knew I was going to use this song, so I put 282 as Ohm's room number on his hotel room door, just as a little nod to this. It was Colm Hogan, the cinematographer, that suggests that. Colm's he's a great cinematographer, but also just a huge music fan, and I spent a year trying to figure out what song do I finish this film on, and I knew I just wanted to have that kind of sweeping Ice Cold and Alex, or even something like the end of It's a Wonderful Life, that kind of very joyous, positive, upbeat feeling to the end of the movie. Because that's ideally what the ending is trying to do. I hope there's something educational in this. I used to listen to a lot of DVD commentaries all the time. You try to get some nugget out of it somewhere, that'll help you as you're making films, or even just something interesting, even if it's not for educational of how to make films. You just hope there's something in there that that's something interesting behind the scenes. It was an amazing crew. I've worked with so many of them on Oddity, and I think with every film you make, you try to build that crew around you and have that shorthand, and what each other is like to work with, and it just all feeds into the work. The film's also dedicated. So while the film's dedicated to Jim, the film also shares a dedication with my grandmother, Delia O'Sullivan. She lived to 101 years old, which is really incredible. And she was always very supportive, when I'm making my short films, and always hoping that it would all work out, because she knew there was a little bit of it's a tough business to get into, and to make a living from. So yeah, she passed when we were just as we finished the film. So that there's certainly a kind of a melancholy feel to the movie with its production. And all films are hard to make, but yeah, there was something about this one that felt a little bit more challenging with those personal things. But I'm very proud of it. And again with these things, I know there's so many people that don't get mentioned, but people that I haven't spoken about, but pretty much if their name is if their name's appearing here in the credits, they've absolutely contributed to the film, and really, and everybody's stamp is on it. So thanks very much for listening to this, and I hope you've enjoyed it.